Hello, thank you for joining me. This is video number 10 in our series Getting Started with AutoCAD. And in this video we're going to do a little bit more work on a cinder block. Specifically in this video is going to be more about dimensioning. And if you remember in our last video when we scaled, or when we did our work in model space, what we did is we did all of our scaling within the viewport. And if you remember a viewport, if you click in a viewport, we had our standard scale of 1 to 4. One thing you want to keep in mind about our scales over here, only change the standard scale, not the custom scale or the annotation scale, but you want to make sure that the standard scale is the only scale you change. Remember how we do that? You have to make sure your display, your viewport, is not locked. So you have to go from yes to no. So we want to make sure that when you finally do lock your viewport that you do have the scale in there you're looking for. AutoCAD for some reason changed our scale from 3 inches equal to a foot to 1:4, or 1 divided by 4, a 1/4 scale. Yeah, that's okay, but I like to try to keep in mind the architectural format of the scales and try to think of it that way. But there is actually the same scale. So 3 inches equal to a foot, it can be read like 3 inches divided by 12 inches, or 1 to 4, or 1 inch is equal to 4 inches, that sort of thing. But keep in mind that, because we're going to need to know that scale factor. So there's two things going on here. You have your scale, which is a 1 to 4 scale, and your scale factor, which is the reciprocal of that. And what we're going to do when we're putting on dimensions, we're going to have to make modifications to it. So let's go ahead and erase this diagonal line. We don't need that. We can do that by double-clicking inside of model spaces. I've demonstrated before. You click outside of that, it goes into paper space. Click inside of that, you're in model space. So everything we can do in model space by going to the model tab down here can be done within paper spaces. We click inside of that viewport window, if that makes sense. So let's do this. Let's create a new layer. The way we're going to do this, we're going to go to the Home tab, go to the Layers property up here, the Layers palette, and go to Layer Properties. And we're going to create a new layer like we've done before. Go to New Layer button, and we're going to call that Dimensions. I think I spelled that right. And we're going to change its color from white, which prints out black. Kind of weird how it inverts like that, but just kind of have to get used to that. We're going to choose red as a color. Nice thing about red and some of these colors that we're choosing, it'll print out in grayscale when we print out in the printer, because it's only a grayscale printer, and that's typically the way architectural drawings are printed out. One thing you want to keep in mind about when you're printing things, when you're designing things, that as I mentioned before, the object you're designing is dark, it's black. It's going to stand out in the paper more than anything else, and everything else is going to be auxiliary to it. So they're going to be in shades of gray or color, but most of the time it's in shades of gray. Red is kind of a dark shade of gray, so it's going to stand out, but not as quite as much as the object itself. So I think that's enough said there. We're going to go to OK. And you can do the green check mark to apply it, but just go to the X and it applies it there too. So now we're going to be able to put a dimension in there. We're going to go to the Model tab in order to do that. So zoom in on our block, pick our layer by going to the Dimension layer, go to Linear Dimension, and we're going to click on the 16-inch dimension side up there and click it into place. And you notice it's a cute little mini dimension. It's teeny tiny. Even though it looks cute, it's really not acceptable because you can't read it. So that's not what we need. So we're going to go to the A-size tab and look at it over here, and in comparison to the rest of the text that's in here, it's just not the right size. So what do? This is what we do. Remember that scale factor I talked about when we clicked on our viewport? It's 1 to 4. The scale factor is actually 4. Scale is 1 to 4. Scale factor is a reciprocal of that, which is 4. That's a test question, by the way. We're going to use that and make our dimensions 4 times bigger. So this is the way this works. So we took a cinder block, and we're looking at a cinder block that's 1/4 of its real size. And that's including the dimensions. Dimensions are 1/4 its size it should be. So now we're going to take those dimensions, and we're going to make those dimensions, not the block, but the dimensions themselves, 4 times bigger, so that they appear correct on the page and appear correct and consistent from drawing to drawing, no matter what we draw. And that's the basis behind this. So let's go ahead and change that. So we go to the Annotate tab, go to the Dimension pull-down menu, and the only thing we change when we go to Modify, the only thing we change is the Fit option. So go to Fit, go down here to the Scale for Dimension Features section, Use the overall scale of, remember a scale factor, reciprocal, the scale itself, 4. And what that does, what that's going to do, is going to create any dimension we draw from this point on 4 times bigger, because our scale factor, or scale, is 1/4 what it is. So that will make sense. If you need to rewind this video and hear that again, I would suggest doing so. So go to OK and go to Close. And it didn't do anything. So this is what we do. Sometimes it changes it, sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't change, this is what you do. And if we click inside of this and zoom in a little bit closer, we're in model space right now, and go to a new dimension. If we click on the 8-inch side, that should be correct. That dimension's nice and big and easily read. This one isn't. And the way you correct that is you go to your Annotate tab on your ribbon, go to the Dimension Update. As you see, it's being highlighted here. Click an Echi, and then select your dimension using the pick box window, enter, and now that dimension's the right size. So now we have an 8-inch by 16-inch CMU. Okay, a little bit more into CMU in the next film.